If you are anything like me, you like or may even love reading. So much so that you have a Goodreads account and you may even take part in their yearly challenge. Like I have, repeatedly, year after year. But you see, the problem is I have never hit my Goodreads goal. I've been close, but I've never hit the exact number. This year, I absolutely refuse to let that happen again. And if you're similar to me, say you're behind on your Goodreads goal and you want to catch up before the end of the year, then this video is also for you. Technically, I can just reduce the amount of books that I set for the year, but where's the fun in that? So I am coming up with a plan to actually help me keep momentum, read the amount of books that I need to read for this year. Well, not need, that I want to read for this year. To be clear, I have set my goal to 30. As of a few days ago, when I thought about making this video, I was at 9. We are in the middle of October, so that means I have less than 3 months to read 21 books. I bumped myself up from 9 to 11. It is my plan and my goal to still somehow hit 30 books by the end of the year. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing how I plan to do that, so hopefully other people who are in the same position can just grab some tips if they need them to catch up as well. I do want to add a disclaimer. I absolutely do not think reading is about numbers. It's not a numbers game. It is, as cheesy as it sounds, about the journey along the way and everything you get from reading, experiencing something new, experiencing literally other worlds. That is, I think, at the core of my purpose for reading, but this is just for funsies. I've seen a pattern of me not hitting my goal, and I can probably just simply lower that goal over the year, and I think I might do that next year. But while my goal is set for this year, I'm going to try and hit it. The way I plan to do that is by keeping momentum. Momentum for me is the name of the game. What I've found throughout the year is that I typically lose momentum and then I'll go weeks and months without reading a book. Since I need to get a lot of books in the next 2.5 months, momentum will be the name of the game. Numero uno for me for keeping momentum, and that is DNFing books, which I already do anyway. I'm not doing it just for this challenge. I already DNF books on the regular, just because I know if I am forcing myself to read a book, I will eventually just put that book down and never pick it up again. That sort of defeats the purpose of this challenge. So I will be putting a book down if it's not for me in the moment. Number 2 is one that you probably already know about, because if you've done the Goodreads challenge before and you've been behind before, you've probably gotten this email at the end of the year that I feel like they send, every year, where they're like, hey girl, hi, did you know that you're behind in your Goodreads reading challenge?
Do you know you have 30 minutes? Are you kidding me? 30, yes.
I read my first short story out of college this year when I was in a bit of a reading rut. It was Murderbot. My plan is to sort of just continue that series, pick up another 1 to 3 books from that series, as well as finding some other short stories that grab my eye. I think the thing with short stories as well is that they're less daunting. So for example, I read Claire Keegan's These Small Things, and I think if it was a larger book in that sort of writing style that's sort of less plot driven, I would have put it down earlier. But since it wasn't 400 pages of that same style of writing, it allowed me to sit down, enjoy something I probably typically wouldn't, because I know it's sort of the type of writing that doesn't usually grab me or keep me. Leaning on short stories to, 1, get me into books that I typically wouldn't lean into, but 2, just speed things along and make things feel less daunting and more achievable. I think that's sort of the beauty of short stories. It just allows you to dabble in things that you typically wouldn't grab. Number 3 is my favorite because it is page turners, and I feel like that's easy to find in thrillers and rom-coms, which are the type of books that I typically read. Page turners is pretty self-explanatory. When you have a page turner, you just can't wait to just get through that book, and you're turning the pages pretty quickly. It just helps lean into what I was talking about having momentum, and that is the name of the game for this challenge. I will leave some books also down below for recommendations for page turners. I'll leave 1 to 3 recommendations for page turners, for short stories. The Will of the Many is the number 1 page turner I read this year. Highly recommend. Could not put it down. I literally took a personal day from work to finish that book. It was just, and I also cried. The book is just literally so mind-blowing for me. I'm so happy because the sequel is coming out next month at the time of this recording. So page turners, and if you need one to get into, I highly recommend The Will of the Many, Wrong Place, Wrong Time, Dark Matter, and I'll think of a few more that I'll link down below, but highly recommend page turners to sort of just get you through this challenge and get you to your goal a little bit faster. Intentionally creating time is the next step in my plan, because the reason I am so behind is because I haven't done that all year. I think it's easy to sort of feel like you'll get to reading, but at least for me, if I don't create that time, I will never get to it. With having a full-time job, a social life, cooking your own food, sleeping, it's so easy for reading to fall to the wayside. I have been creating time in the morning to make sure I read and then trying to read to sleep. That part is a little bit tricky because that means I need to get into bed earlier. I have been reading more in the morning time, which also is tricky because if the book is really good, it's hard to put down and start my day, which I need to do in order to get to work on time. Even having an audiobook on, like creating the time to listen to an audiobook on your commute, because then that way it definitely gets done and you're definitely taking steps to get closer to your Goodreads reading goal. This one is my favorite, and that is connecting your books to where you are in life. So for example, say if you are like me and you're trying to figure out how to tap in deeper to your creativity, you would probably pick up a book like The Creative Act by Rick Rubin or Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. The Artist's Way, which I have picked up. I'm doing that with a group for 12 weeks actually. I won't finish it in time for this yearly challenge. Those kind of books to sort of tap into my creativity, or even a fiction book that is just really creative, has like a really interesting plot, because if I'm trying to tap into my creativity, then I'll probably lean on a book about creativity or that is written really creatively. That is one way to look at it, because I think when you connect a book to where you are in life, it's more motivating because you feel like it just really resonates with you. And I think sometimes that's what we're looking for. We're either looking for a different way to see the world or a different world to look at, or we're looking for something that deeply resonates with us and that really connects with us. When you have books like that, I just feel like you gravitate to it more because you are looking to learn and grow. I think as humans, by default, we are in some way, shape, or form, we're looking to learn and grow. And by connecting books with where you are in this time of your life, it really helps you have that momentum that I keep harping on, and it helps you keep gravitating to a book because you just feel like, oh, this really resonates with me, and this really resonates with where I am in life. And there's just something really powerful about that. So yes, finding books that connect with where you are in life. So say, for example, if you really like knitting, picking up a book that relates to knitting about a young person who lives in a cottage who likes to knit, or picking up a book that teaches you how to knit better, or just picking up a book that just feels really cozy to listen to while you are knitting, just creates an entire moment. It doesn't just make it about the reading, it makes it integrated into your life. So connecting books to where you are in life is one of my favorites that I'm going to be leaning into. This one is an oldie but a goodie that I have never really leaned into in the past, just because I feel like it's easier for me to read with a physical book or my iPad with the words in front of me because my mind tends to drift. It's using audiobooks. People already use this. I haven't really leaned into it much because of what I just mentioned. Like my mind just goes off while I'm multitasking and listening to a book. But what I have found has made, for the last two books I have picked up, what I have found is that when it gets to parts where it's not as engaging to me, it really helps to pick up an audiobook and then go cook dinner or go for a walk and then use that to get me through the parts of the books that are a bit slower or not just like grabbing my interest as much. Yeah, it keeps me going as opposed to like me just putting it down and then waiting for the urge to read that section of the book again. I am able to continue the book and lean into the bits that I find less engaging by whoever's narrating that story and giving it their own oomph or like own creativity and own flavor. It just sort of spices it up for me a little bit to allow me to just keep on going when I would normally stop. So leaning into audiobooks, but more in like a supplemental way as opposed to just listening to the entire book. I think I just find reading a physical book more engaging than reading through audiobooks. But as a supplement, it has been super helpful. Reading multiple books at one time is also super helpful. Personally, I try to do that normally anyway. I typically used to read like one nonfiction and one fiction because the nonfiction was just a little bit more maybe dense or not as entertaining, and then the fiction would sort of lighten things up. So if I got a little bit less engaged with the nonfiction book, I would pick up the fiction book to sort of just spice things up and keep me in the groove of reading. But what I'm realizing is I can also have two fiction books. So recently I was reading the book called Blood Over Brighthaven. It's a good book. I really liked it, but it also had me really frustrated and really annoyed to the point that at points I was just like, I need to put this down. I need to put this book down and just step away for a while and think through things and feel through things. I really wish I had another fiction book that was a bit more lighthearted. It would probably take me out of that frustration. Even though I do think there's something good about sitting in those feelings, I do wish I had a lighter, either like nonfiction or fiction book, like a rom-com to sort of balance me out because I was getting so frustrated. At one time, I just put the book down. I could not read for the rest of the day. And it would have been nice to have a fiction book to lighten that load. So having multiple couple books that will allow you to keep the momentum going. So if you're feeling frustrated or annoyed with one book or just not feeling it with one book in the moment, you can have another book to lean on to keep your momentum going and get you a little bit closer to your reading goal. All of that said, at the end of the day, again, it's not about hitting the numbers. It really is just about enjoying reading. This specific challenge that I'm doing for this video technically is about numbers, but typically I don't think, for me at least, it should be. That's not the goal of reading. It's not about reading 5, 10, 50 books a year. It's really what you get from it. I was just mentioning Blood Over Brighthaven. It's literally about me thinking a bit more deeply about certain subject matters. It's about me feeling the frustration, feeling the annoyance, and digging into why I feel that, or feeling the joy, or feeling the inspiration, and digging into why I feel that, depending on the type of book. That's what I think reading is about. But I still want to hit this goal though. Like, I still want to hit these 30 books. Either way, I won't be sad if I don't. I think it's just fun to make it a whole thing. That being said, I'm going to list some books I recommend, some short stories, some page turners, and some books I just genuinely love and hope that other people will love too on the screen. And then also I will list those books below. If you plan to do this, please let me know what tips you plan to pick up and try, or if you have any tips yourself to sort of just build momentum, or please share them below. And especially if you have any books that you love and you recommend, please share them. I'm always looking for book recommendations. But either way, whether or not you're aiming to hit a goal or not, happy reading, enjoy your reading. Again, it's not about the number. It literally is about the journey and everything you're getting from what you're reading. So I hope you enjoy the next book you pick up. Bye!